Taking place in the South Pacific Ocean during 1897, the story continues from where the original movie ended. A larger ship comes across a small dinghy carrying 3 passengers. Upon closer inspection, they discover that the 2 adults on board have tragically passed away. However, nestled between them is an infant, a 2-year-old boy who is referred to as Richard, since it is the only name he responds to. The crew brings the baby on board and entrusts him to the care of a young widow who already has a daughter named Lily. An outbreak of cholera occurs among the crew, prompting the captain to make a decision. In order to protect the widow, the 2 children, and 1 strong crew member from the disease, they are placed on a smaller boat. The crew member, fearing that the children might consume all the water and annoy everyone with their crying, threatens them. In a display of righteous anger, the widow, Sarah, fiercely defends her children and ends up fatally injuring the crew member, disposing of his body by throwing it into the ocean. The boat drifts aimlessly until it reaches the island where Richard was born. As they approach the shore, the boat encounters large waves that nearly overturn it, but they manage to reach the beach safely. Sarah sets up a makeshift camp near a massive piece of driftwood, and the group sets out to search for necessary supplies. They discover fresh water, fruits, and roots, while little Richard excitedly explores his familiar surroundings. Suddenly, a tropical storm hits, leaving the 3 of them soaked and miserable in their insufficient shelter. Once the storm subsides, Sarah decides it's time to find a more secure place to live. They stumble upon the house that Emmeline and Richard Sr. had built, and the baby boy eagerly rushes up the steps, hoping to find his parents. However, Sarah gently explains that she will now be his mother. How convenient. Drifting aimlessly just led them back where little Richard was living. Life goes on, and a sense of normalcy gradually takes hold as the little family learns to survive. Sarah soon realizes that every 3 months, during the full moon, people from the north side of the island, whom she refers to as heathens, row past the lagoon in long canoes. To protect themselves, she becomes extra cautious and takes measures to avoid encountering them. As the years pass, the children grow older and spend most of their time exploring the island, often wearing minimal clothing. The children seem to have embraced the less is more fashion trend on the island. Sarah establishes 2 simple rules: to be home before sunset and to never venture to the north side of the island. Sarah also consistently tries to instill civilized behaviors in the children, teaching them about religion, education, and proper manners. While she maintains a proper way of living, the children explore their own curiosities, including questions about the facts of life. Sarah dutifully explains concepts like anatomy, puberty, and marriage to them. I guess Sarah's curriculum includes the full package: ABCs, math, and a crash course in the birds and the bees. At one point, the children find themselves stranded on the reef while hunting for fish, with a menacing shark circling the lagoon. As darkness falls, Richard decides to throw the fish they caught as a distraction for the shark, allowing them to swim back to their drifting boat. Worried sick, Sarah goes out in search of them and eventually finds them just as they reach the shore. On another day, a storm damages part of the house's roof. After fixing it, Sarah falls severely ill. She shares her wishes regarding her burial location and details with the children, providing them with a prayer and instructions for her tombstone. Eventually, Sarah passes away, and they bury her on a hilltop overlooking the house, serving as a guardian angel for the children. She asks Richard to include his name on her tombstone, despite not being his biological mother. Throughout it all, Sarah hopes that the children will continue to embrace civilization and be prepared for the arrival of a ship to rescue them. The children are left on their own, and the story fast-forwards several more years. It's Easter time, and teenage Richard insists on having an egg hunt, even though teenage Lily isn't enthusiastic about it. The teenage version of Richard insisting on an egg hunt like it's the most important event of the year. Richard suggests a prize for the winner and reminds Lily that their mother would have wanted them to enjoy an egg hunt. Lily agrees to participate, and they each hide 10 eggs in different parts of the island. They both find 9 eggs, and Richard secretly hides 1, letting Lily win. As her prize, he gives her a pearl that she adorns her hair with, using feathers and a twig. Richard maintains an ongoing rivalry with the shark in the lagoon, the same one that had threatened him and Lily when they were younger. He boasts about his battles with the shark, but Lily disapproves. I bet Richard wishes he had a sibling rivalry over whose turn it is to do the dishes instead of battling sharks. She playfully mocks him, and he playfully teases her in return, particularly about her fascination with her changing body. They argue and acknowledge that life has changed now that they've grown older. After a brief moment of friendship, Lily requests if she can move her bed to a different part of the house instead of sharing a bed with Richard. Richard jokingly responds, "If you weren't going to do it, I was." Lily's request for a separate bed is a diplomatic way of saying, "Richard, your snoring is driving me crazy." Shortly after, Lily experiences her first menstrual period, marking her transition into womanhood. She is excited about this milestone. Who would have thought a first period would bring such excitement? She also becomes intrigued when she learns about a unique skill Richard possesses, but he feels embarrassed discussing it. They argue, and Richard walks away in frustration, heading to the opposite side of the island where he encounters the natives during their ritual. The natives are gathered around a bonfire, covered in white paint. In an attempt to blend in, Richard covers himself in black mud, but ends up facing off with one of the natives. Eventually, both Richard and the native back down, and they part ways. Before reuniting with Lily, Richard discovers blood-soaked leaves on a stone in a clearing. When he finally finds Lily again, she is distraught by his absence and begs him never to leave her again. After that, they share their first kiss and, as a symbol of their commitment, they exchange primitive rings and declare themselves married. They really went all out for their intimate wedding ceremony. I guess they had a guest list of 2 and a dress code of barely there. They spend quality time together, nurturing their love for one another and sharing intimate moments. Shortly thereafter, a ship arrives in search of fresh water, but their kegs of water have spoiled. As the ship's crew approaches the island, they are taken aback when they see Lily and Richard greeting them without shirts, which surprises and shocks the captain and his crew. Talk about making a memorable first impression. The captain, in conversation with his daughter Sylvia, remarks that the islanders seem to possess a mixture of knowledge and ignorance. He also comments on their unconventional attire, describing it as sparse. The captain and his crew are further bewildered when Lily cheerfully informs them that Richard is not her brother, but her husband. Well, that certainly adds a surprising twist to the whole encounter. The captain and his daughter provide Lily and Richard with proper clothes, bringing a touch of civilization to their island life. The fashion police have arrived on the island. The couple tries their best to accommodate the crew's needs and make them comfortable, although not everything goes smoothly. Lily and Richard, accustomed to their casual lifestyle of eel broth and nudity, find one crew member who isn't fazed by their habits. Interestingly, Sylvia doesn't object to anything Richard does either. Looks like Lily and Richard were living their best life until civilization showed up with all its fancy clothes and rules. In an attempt to win back Richard's attention from Sylvia, Lily decides to dress up and wear makeup just like Sylvia. However, Richard dismisses her efforts as silly. Disappointed, Lily then washes off the smudged rouge she had applied to her face. Luckily, she didn't use waterproof mascara for her makeup. Richard soon discovers that Sylvia is not interested in maintaining a platonic friendship. She diminishes the significance of Richard's marriage, claiming it to be meaningless. Richard, however, firmly asserts his commitment and declares that his marriage holds great value to him. Well, it seems Sylvia needs a crash course in respecting other people's marriages. Realizing the depth of his love for Lily, he rushes off to find her, leaving behind an indignant Sylvia. Just in time, he arrives to find Lily being harassed by a crew member who had observed her bathing and now seeks to obtain her pearl. A scuffle ensues, during which the man fires his rifle, grazing Richard's arm. Hearing the commotion, the rest of the crew rushes to their aid. Richard and the crew member sprint down the beach, with the crew member relentlessly pursuing Richard. They make their way across the reef, and Richard plunges into the lagoon. As always, the shark awaits him. Utilizing his superior swimming skills honed through previous encounters, Richard outpaces the creature. He should be awarded Olympic gold medal in shark evasion. Unfortunately, the crew member, who is not a proficient swimmer, is dragged beneath the water by the shark's relentless pursuit. Upon Richard's return, Lily shares the news that she has decided not to board the ship to return to civilization. She reveals that she is pregnant and wishes for her child to be born in a world devoid of firearms. Sure, let the kid be forever stuck on the island without experiencing love and friendship. Very cool parents indeed. Richard is overjoyed by the revelation and wholeheartedly agrees with her decision. At dawn, the ship sets sail, leaving Lily and Richard to revel in their idyllic existence undisturbed. Time passes, and their baby is born, most likely a girl based on the credits' indications. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. If you enjoyed it, why not consider subscribing? If you're curious about the little boy's previous survival story, you can click on the first video linked here. It serves as a prequel that showcases the life his parents lived on the island. If you're intrigued by generational tales, don't miss the second video, where an exciting adaptation of this film takes place, offering a fresh perspective on the story.